All right. Good morning, Savannah. Welcome to the Savannah Business Showcase. I'm here once again with the amazing guest, great guest who's here, Tom Kenkel.
Hi.
He is the president of Lowcountry Down Syndrome Society, the CEO and founder of Kenkel Design. He is the chair of the Night of Champions, and he's also the president of BNI's Savannah Business Connection here in Savannah. So that is a long list of stuff that's really cool.
That
so
sure sounds like a lot.
It is,
Yeah,
but that's good.
Get back a little bit. All right.
Okay.
Happy to be here. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. So the way I like to start the show is with the scenario. Here it goes. You're in your neighborhood. A little kid comes up to you and says, "Tom, you're my hero. How can I be like you when I grow up?" So in the language that a 10 or 12-year-old could understand, what does it take to be Tom Kenkel?
Oh my gosh. Just, work hard and look for opportunities to help people. That's maybe a little bit above the 10-year-old or the explain it like I'm 5, but just, work hard, look for opportunities to help folks and remain receptive to the needs of other people and just what you see going on in your community, and be kind of proactive about how you might be able to help.
No, that's good. Yeah. How
10-year-old.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 10-year-old understand. Yeah,
Start raking my yard. That's really what I would say.
How old is your daughter now?
She's 3.
She's 3. Okay.
Emily.
Okay. And so for people out there, Emily is tell us about Emily.
Yeah, so Emily's 3 years old. She had her first soccer practice last night at the
awesome.
Y, which was amazing. She attends Kicklighter Resource Center with all of her friends, and she loves going. And she happens to have Down syndrome, and that's why I'm so heavily involved with Lowcountry Down Syndrome Society. But that really has been a blessing. Emily's been, of course, a blessing, and being involved with LDSS has been a really cool opportunity to, like I said, help folks and see what's going on in the community.
Right. So how did you get involved with LDSS, and how have you seen, and what do they do? Sure.
So my wife and I, when she was pregnant, we found out that Emily would have Down syndrome, and so we looked for Lowcountry Down Syndrome Society. Tailspin at the time, or the owners of Tailspin at the time introduced us to Joe Marchese of Joe Marchese Construction, who was on the board of LDSS. Yeah. They had done work together, and so when they learned about Emily, they introduced us. Awesome. That got us involved. We went to our first meeting of LDSS in January of 2015, just before Emily was born, and we kind of hit the ground running with that group. So the LDSS, they are a family support group for people with children, for families with children with Down syndrome. And so we do monthly socials where parents can get together and discuss issues that they're facing with their kids, or with the systems that are in place that their kids are kind of shuffled through, whether it's kind of schools or medical systems or what have you.
Right.
And LDSS does 3 big events per year. We do Night of Champions, which is coming up May 10th. We do Buddy Walk, which is a national Down syndrome awareness event, and I think we're coming on our 13th or 14th year of Buddy Walk in Savannah this year in October. Awesome. And we do Camp Buddy, and there's an Effingham Camp Buddy, and there's a Chatham Camp Buddy, and it's a summer camp for kids with disability or different abilities. We say different abilities and not disabilities. And a summer camp that employs therapists so that our kids don't lose a lot of what they've learned during the school year.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh, okay, so a little bit about me. a couple years out of college, I worked with autistic children, but also children with Down syndrome and children with all these different abilities. Some were verbal, some were nonverbal, some had, just the full gamut, the full spectrum of differently abled kids. And I always wondered about the parents and, how they, the community, like, did they have a community to be a part of, because I know it's hard to, like, just be by yourself with this kid all the time, because it's hard to, go out and, I don't know if I want to say anything wrong.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So
yeah.
the language of disabilities is really complicated,
Okay,
and it changes a lot.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the R word, right, was maybe acceptable 50 years ago, but it's absolutely not acceptable now. And there are a lot of other ways that language absolutely has an effect on everybody, right? So
school me. Like, what is the language? So you said differently abled.
Yeah. So differently abled. There are a lot of folks trying to think of different ways to describe somebody with disabilities, and on one hand, that's kind of problematic because you're still lumping everybody with a perceived disability into a group in and of themselves, and you still get to say they versus we. And so there's a school that says you don't, the school is you don't separate like that. We're trying to be inclusive, and you have to catch yourself saying they a bunch, or like them, and grouping everybody with a perceived disability into a group. You have one, so you got to be careful about that. And then another solution is to pay attention to using person first language. So like you said, a person with a disability. So Emily is my daughter first, and she is a person first. And so Emily is a child with Down syndrome, and she's not a Down syndrome child. Gotcha. She's definitely not a Down child. Gotcha. And she's not a kid with Downs. She's a child first. Really, beautiful, energetic, happy, lovely, awesome, probably the best daughter in the world. And she happens to have Down syndrome. So person first language, that I think is the easiest thing to adopt and pay attention to. Okay. In addition to, like, cutting out some of those words that are just obviously offensive. Gotcha. Like the R word.
Gotcha. Okay, so how does Lowcountry Down Syndrome Society, like, what do you do? What programs outside of the events that you told me about? Sure. What other programs do you have to help are you more focused on the parents or the children? Or is it kind of a mix?
It's a mix. So Camp Buddy is obviously focused on the children and the parents, to the extent that you get the kids out the house. Right. Although the parents are typically pretty hands-on during Camp Buddy. So gotcha. There's that. I would say that we're more focused on the kids, but it requires parents' heavy involvement, and the organization gives parents an opportunity to form that community. And that's a point that from the last question that I wanted to address is, like, it's a lot of work to form a community, and it takes a lot of people dedicated to that effort. But when you put that effort in, you begin to see benefits, and in LDSS, the benefits are being able to talk with other parents about what issues they can expect, and then there's the benefit of having a group to decide on, like, what is best for their children, and to be advocates for their children. So better that a group advocates on behalf of kids with different abilities than the siloed parent that doesn't feel like they're part of a community.
Right. So is there Is there a price to join LDSS, or is it?
No, just come. So our monthly socials are currently held at the Benedictine Academy in the library. Okay. And we do that on the last Tuesday of each month. So awesome. Our recent meeting was last night. And everybody is welcome. So whether you have a child with Down syndrome, whether you are a person with Down syndrome, whether you have no personal or like immediate connection to Down syndrome, and you just care about helping the community, finding those needs in the community and reaching out to help out, everybody is absolutely welcome.
Awesome. Now, it seems like Savannah's special. Maybe it's not. Are you from Savannah?
No, I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I moved here in 2010.
Okay. So not too long ago. Not terribly long ago.
Yeah.
All right. So have you maybe you haven't noticed because your daughter's only 3, but maybe you didn't think about it then. But how, like, is Savannah special? Like, are you in contact with any other communities doing things like LDSS?
I'm not. I know that other members of LDSS have reached out to other communities, and they do a good job of finding out what, like, for instance, Jacksonville is doing with their buddy walk. Okay. Or, Jacksonville's the one, like the one other kind of nearby city that comes to mind. We call ourselves a Lowcountry Down Syndrome Society, and we have a fairly big reach in terms of the folks that come to our meetings.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I was just I guess what I was getting at is that it seems like Savannah has a really strong community for not just differently able people, but for all different types of, like, it's just a lot. It's a spirit of help here that I haven't seen so much in other. Maybe I'm just plugged in now because I have the radio show.
I think that's a big part of it, right? So when you start to look for ways that you can help and ways that you can be involved, I mean, you become a doer, right? Yeah. And you start to connect with other people who are doers and who are helpers and who are, like, working to make a difference. And I've had that experience as well when I moved here. So Tulsa's bigger, and I had no sense that it was a particularly like inclusive place. And of course, like I didn't pay attention to that until Emily was born. I had no. I mean, there was nothing.
Right.
I wasn't paying attention to it now I'm paying attention to it. I dove in head first, and I sure see it, but also. Having a business requires that you're out there and networking, and so you become a doer. You become connected with those people that are, being inclusive, because it helps their business as well. And so Savannah, it's been very welcoming. Savannah has been very welcoming to me, and my family has been. LDSS has been a great organization for us to be involved in, and they've been around for several years, 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, man.
So that's an organization that has some legs, and it's doing some definite, good work that a broad range of people can get behind. It's kind of easy to see the good work that they're doing.
That's beautiful. I like the point you touched on to, just look for the helpers. I heard that quote recently, just to look for the helpers. Anytime there's a, school shooting or mass tragedy or bombing and all these things that you lose a little bit of faith in humanity, just go back and look for the helpers. Look for the people running into the fray to help other people. Look for the, listen for the stories of people, helping and trying to get more people out. And I feel like LDSS is one of those helpers, definitely.
Tammy, my wife, was telling me about the most recent school shooting and news coverage that focused more on the people that were helping. She pointed out that she had not heard as much about the shooter or the suspect. Yeah. And it dawns on me that is maybe like a really appropriate way to address that kind of situation, is to focus on those people helping for a number of reasons.
Right. Okay. All right. So you're also a business owner, so you're also helping in that way too. So like, tell me a little bit about Kenkel Design and how long it's been around and how you got involved with it.
Yeah. So when I moved from Tulsa, I decided that was a good time to start a company. And
what did you do in Tulsa?
So I graduated University of Tulsa doing graphic design and marketing, and in Tulsa I worked in that field at a small publishing company.
Okay.
And so when I moved, I felt like I could run a business, and and that's kind of funny in retrospect. But I started and I tried, and actually Tailspin was one of those companies that I knew that I could help them, and I would, every time I had to go buy dog food for my Great Dane and my German Shepherd, I was buying a lot of dog food, I would go in and say, let me do your website, and they said, no, let us hire you, and like that we went back and forth until I ran out of money trying to find clients. And so anyway, I worked with them for a little under a year, and then gave Kenkel Design another shot, and so that was 2011, and I have done it since then. It's just been me, although in the last couple of years I've had a few interns through an organization called Progressive Abilities, and so they're a group that finds employment for people with disabilities, and I have worked with two young men on the autism spectrum. One guy, the first guy, had to leave, or he moved, so he left, and I'm now working with a young man, Luke Jeffers, who he has run his own YouTube channel for like a decade.
Oh man!
And this guy is some prolific YouTuber.
Wow!
But we're working on developing some professionalism, and some kind of better video editing skills. And for anybody out there listening, I don't know video editing. I don't know how to help him with video editing skills, but I'd love to visit some studios and show him what's what. So anyway, Kenkel Design, it has grown very slowly over the last several years, and probably at a pace that I can keep up with.
That's awesome. So is that kind of one of your main marketing tactics, is to help first? And because I know you helped what did the name of the company was? Tailspin. You helped Tailspin, and then you also helped WRUU when they were first launching. So is that one of your marketing tactics, to give first? And
well, I mean, a marketing tactic is absolutely to find nonprofit organizations locally that you kind of agree with or that you like working with, because gosh, Savannah has a bunch, and we've got a bunch of folks that need help.
Yeah.
And so you go and you help them. Forsyth Farmers Market was one of those organizations I got to work with.
Okay.
A bunch. And WRUU, before you had the call letters or the
right,
or the frequency. First City Network, Savannah Center for Blind and Low Vision. So a lot of nonprofits that are doing a lot of good work, and they need help. And as a designer, as a graphic designer, web developer, it's a useful tactic a useful marketing tactic, and really gets you plugged in.
Right. Yeah, and that's that is something I'm learning about Savannah. Something I'm noticing more is that there's, especially in smaller communities like Savannah, there are organizations that need the help, but they also just need to be a little bit more exposure, because they're doing so much good stuff, but not enough people know about them. And that's why, that's why I like doing this radio show, because it gives me a chance to give back in that way too.
Yeah.
Just to give them just a little bit more exposure. Even if nobody shares it, if nobody watches it, I know at least, a few of my...
I think you're gaining some audience, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm getting there, but soon enough. Yeah. Anyway, so cool. So you're also president of BNI. No, not president.
President.
President of BNI. Yeah.
Well, so president of BNI Savannah Business Connection, right?
Right.
So BNI is Business Networking International. It's a networking group that allows one person per profession, and there are several chapters in Savannah, several chapters of BNI. My chapter meets on Tuesdays from 11:30 to 1 at Carrie Hilliard's on Skidaway. And in that chapter, I'm the web designer, and we've got a little over 20 other members that range from residential real estate to Corleone's is in there, and financial planners. So business BNI is a real good way to do some structured networking with a system of accountability that kind of sets it apart from other kind of networking groups in the area, and I think does it. Their aim is to show you your ROI on networking, and they put this system in place to help you see that.
Yeah.
It requires that you participate, and it requires a fair amount of time, but the payoff is certainly there.
Yeah, I could say, everybody. So I've interviewed a lot of people specifically from your chapter of BNI. I've had Seth Norwood on, him and his brother. I've had Carolyn Williams. I know she's the regional director, but she was there that day. It's a few other people on there too. Liz Baker.
Not in my group, but
she works with Baker McCullough.
Yeah,
she's not in your group. She
I
spoke
don't remember
that day.
the group.
Okay,
but Lisa, that's it. Yeah. Lisa. I can't remember. Lisa's gonna be mad at me. But anyway, me too. But hopefully,
but she was a great interview. She was a great interview, and I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot from her that day. So it is a great way to network because they do have they're trying to get their business out there if you're a member of BNI, but you're also trying to give back and you're constantly thinking about the other members.
The motto or the philosophy of BNI is givers gain. And if you're going to be successful in that group, in any BNI chapter, you got to come with the idea that you're going to give first. And by giving, right, you put yourself out there, you become a doer, and you're going to gain the referrals that lead to business, and that's the BNI promise.
True. Yeah, and it's a great promise. Awesome. Okay, so do we leave anything out? We got about 5 minutes before we take a break.
What's on your notepad? Let's do Night of Champions, because that thing's coming up. That's a really good. It's an incredible event. So we're coming in to our eighth or ninth Night of Champions.
Okay.
For the last few years, we've had 650 attendees. We've packed out the Westin Ballroom and the ballroom at the Hyatt. So we're moving over to the convention center this year because we want to grow the event. Kind of by necessity, the more people attend, the more people want to attend. Nobody wants to miss a year. And so Night of Champions, it's an event that features employers and their employees with different abilities that have been kind of successfully employed. And it shows that people with different abilities want to work, they're able to work. And I was talking with another BNI member this morning about folks with different abilities. We say different abilities because sometimes they do the job better than what somebody else, a typical employee, would. So we take nominations for Night of Champions, and nominations can come from anybody, but the nominees are going to be anybody with what's typically perceived as a disability, whether it's autism or Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or whatever it is, and they're employed. If you go into whatever business, Zaxby's does a great job of hiring folks with disabilities. Five Guys. Five Guys had a number of employees, and Anyway, whether you're a customer or a manager or an owner or a parent of an employee, you can go to nightofchampions.org to nominate that nominee. And right, so you have until April 13th to do that.
Okay.
You have until April 13th to sponsor the event. So we take sponsors, and that's also available at nightofchampions.org.
Awesome.
And tickets are available at nightofchampions.org. That's $50 per seat or $500 for a table.
Okay.
And so you can find us on Facebook. Lowcountry Down Syndrome Society and Night of Champions each have a Facebook presence. If you remember seeing at the St. Patrick's Day parade a float that ran by with mannequin legs sticking up from the float and mismatched socks on all the mannequin legs, that was Lowcountry Down Syndrome Society promoting World Down Syndrome Day, which was March 21st.
Okay.
It's March 21st is 3/21, and Down syndrome is a condition in which you have 3 sets of chromosome 21. So March 21st is World Down Syndrome Day, and we bring attention to that by wearing mismatched socks, which I'm wearing today.
It's just normal for you now.
Yeah, that might just be normal now. So, anyway, World Down Syndrome Day. We were in the parade, and Night of Champions is May 10th at the Convention Center.
Awesome.
Nightofchampions.org.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, so guys, thank you again for listening. Don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back with the lightning round in just a second. Once again, I'm here with Tom Kenkel, president of the Lowcountry Down Syndrome Society, CEO and founder of Kenkel Design, chair of the Night of Champions, president of BNI, Savannah Business Connection, and just a whole host of things. So thank you for being on the show so far. We're going to come back with the lightning round in just a second.
Thanks, sir.